Hello, welcome back. I'm here today with one of my amazing teachers and a student in one of some of the classes that I taught. I'll let you introduce yourself. You want to say your name, what you're doing right now, when we met each other, just kind of give an introduction to the context that we've worked together and what you're doing now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm Yamm Elnekave. And I met Jeff in fall of 22, right? And
I think
took,
fall 2B class, right?
yeah, Math 2B, the linear algebra class.
Yep.
Um, we'll
And
get
then
into that. It's not
yeah.
really only in the linear algebra class. And
And then I think we worked
then
together again in
in winter of the same year.
yep,
That was things like winter 23,
yep.
in your engineering 11 class, the MATLAB class, and worked together again over the years on many Zoom interviews,
Yeah.
not interviews, but Zoom meetings,
Yeah, I think,
just
well, that
working live.
spring quarter, I think we met probably at least three times in office hours.
At least.
Yeah. And then I think we kept talking on the phone as you navigated the interview or the internship process and all that went into that, right? And then I feel really excited that you're allowing me to capture your voice to share with other Foothill students. Um, I guess before we get into like some of the lessons and some of just your story, I might ask. So you graduated Foothill 2020, spring
Three?
2023,
I think so, yeah.
and then can you tell a little bit of a story of maybe a
How I got there?
well, I was going to say what you've been doing since then, just so people can hear what
Sure.
happened after Foothill, and then because those are all about outputs. But we're going to talk about the input piece if you would be so kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But for
All
now,
right.
it's nice to hear the outputs, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
let me give the outputs real quick. So I graduated 23 spring from Foothill, and made it over to UCLA for computer science. And actually just graduated from UCLA like a week, 2 weeks ago. Yeah,
bachelor's degree
bachelor's degree,
in a BS in CS.
a BS in CS.
Yeah, all right, cool.
Rhymes, so it's true. Um, and I'm continuing on to a master's in computer science as well,
Awesome.
with Professor Rafael Ostrovsky.
Very cool. And is the one you spoke a little bit ago about your interest in cryptography,
Correct.
not cryptology. Cryptography, does that mean that the focus of your master's will be on cryptography?
Yeah, so it will probably be a focus on like implementing a bunch of cryptographic systems. So this professor is really big into the theory, and he needs a lot of PhD and master students to hack away at actually implementing what he dreams up. Um, and yeah, that's probably what I'm going to be working in.
How exciting. Later, I can't help but we can talk about that later about the thesis process, and there's a bunch of practice and stuff. But this is really, this is to capture your voice and your story. So I wonder if we can start at kind of the beginning. Fall 2022, we're in room 5614 at Foothills
Yep.
campus. You want to talk a little bit about those first few weeks that we knew each other and what? Yeah,
Sure, yeah. Um, I
and you can use fun language, by the way. I'll
Yeah,
I'll, I'll
we
state the
can use fun
quote.
language.
Yeah, can I state the quote?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so Yam has one of my favorite quotes in my entire history of teaching. You probably this is probably spring quarter, and I
I think it
think
was spring
and I
quarter.
think it was the celebration of your exam process in Cascarano's class,
Yeah,
as
yeah, you're
well
right.
as I don't know if I can say numbers out loud. That
It-
spring quarter. You want to talk a little bit about the scholarship process that you?
yeah, I can totally get into that. It was a wonderful spring quarter where, after an entire year of getting help from Jeff in the scholarship process, the learning process, the fun process outside in life, kind of culminated in spring, and I just got like yes after yes and good things. Did really well in my classes, better than I had ever done.
And I think I
And
remember one of the things I was really excited about is that you were studying less. Like
yeah,
you had more free time to work
I
on
had
things.
more free
Yeah.
time to enjoy, and still getting really, really great results, better results.
And
And
I remember, can I say a number? Am I allowed to say
yeah,
that?
go for it.
I remember, I think that quarter you had made 10K in scholarship stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, very
Yeah,
close to it.
yeah,
And also got like my first hundreds on exams, which was like
yeah.
really, really big for
And
me.
just, I'm not paying you for this, right? Like, I'm not like, this is,
No.
yeah, this is, because I remember one thing that happened in Cascarana's class, we had been working on your exam process since fall.
Yeah,
And really talking about how to use office hours and what does it mean to engage. And you started to really explore for yourself what it meant to be able to get corrective feedback so that you could get way better results on your exams with less time invested, right?
100%.
Yeah, and then yeah. So, anyways, we can get into that. But in spring, we were talking about this, and you said something to me because we had been working together at that point for like 8 months, 9 months,
Yeah.
and you said this line. I think it's almost verbatim. Like, Jeff, the first 2 weeks I met you, I thought you were full of shit, and then I started reading, and my jaw dropped.
Yeah.
Right? Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Just
I would love to
yeah,
talk about that. I'm sure like if students are seeing this or people that haven't worked with you yet, I'll give a quick like description. But the first 2 weeks in your class, um, you're thrust into this math class and you're ready to start learning day one and going over all kinds of math theories and definitions and lemmas and whatever. And all of a sudden, you're given a bunch of reading materials and nothing even close to math. This
that it
meta learning,
seems that it seems
yeah,
right.
yeah, it seems,
Yeah, yeah,
and like all this meta learning. Who has even heard about this before? And I was ready to drop the class, and move on to a different professor that's going to give me what I had always known. But I very luckily stuck with it, and after reading, enjoying and internalizing what you had to say, and throughout the entire quarter, reading more and seeing more about it, I saw how powerful and important it is, and like lessons that have stuck with me till today.
Yeah, and that to me, like one of the things when my students say, "Jeff, you changed my life," my immediate response is that's bullshit. Because if it was me, every student would have this outcome, and it's not
I
me, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So,
I actually recommended a lot of friends your class, and a lot of friends weren't ready to take your
yep,
class. I have friends that went through your class and told me, "Wow, I think I learned so much. Like he opened my eyes." And I also have friends that told me, "Wow, I took his class and I took like the lowest level so I can get through the quarter. And he made me read a bunch of stuff from the start, but I didn't really like vibe with it. And you know, to each their own, right?
yes,
But
yeah. So one thing, if I don't know if I can just give some language to this,
yeah,
because
please.
yeah. So I have this model that I use to describe, and I think you have embodied this really well, and this is why I want to capture your story. Um, because something that's really hard is that when students avoid this, they don't recognize what they're going to go into. So the way that I talk about this is holistic model for learning. And what you're saying basically is the way that we teach school is we decontextualize school from the living reality of our students. So another way to say that is we pretend like we can just open students' mouth, stuff content in, shut it up, and then say, get the hell out of here, right?
Yeah,
And so, it is the case. I would say, how did after you started to get it, I would ask, how did your content knowledge go? How did the expertise that you have in linear algebra? One of the biggest critiques that I get in my school system is that somehow because I do what I do, I expect less content expertise from my students. And I would ask you to respond to that critique from your own perspective. When you really engaged with the work that I was trying to have you do, what did you notice about your content expertise and the way
yeah.
that you did your
I can definitely delve into that.
yeah.
So if there are many tracks in your class, I personally took the advanced track because I found it extremely interesting the
Who
second I
are your
delved into
people
it.
again? It was Disha,
It was
Yam,
Disha and Ron Painter.
Ron Painter. Was it? And then one
Yeah,
more. Wasn't there?
and then
What was
was it
her name?
Alicia? No, what was her name? She like
I
worked in the
remember her.
Stanford lab
Yep,
for a
I
bit,
remember her.
right?
Yep.
Oh man, I'm so embarrassed to not
Yeah,
remembering her
we'll get it. We'll
name.
get it. Don't. We'll
Yeah,
come back to us. We're thinking about other things right now. Right. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But regardless, like
Was it
had
Marianne? No, it wasn't Marianne.
no, it wasn't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll get it. Let's forget it. Let's move on.
And like if you do indeed take a track where you're really pushing yourself, and even the advanced track ends early, so like what I'm learning is like minus 2 weeks, so you still have an extra 2 weeks in the end, right, where you're doing a project. So even if you take the middle track, I think you take pretty much the same amount of content as the advanced.
Yeah, my hope is that it's choose your own adventure because what I'm trying to do is I call it low floor, high ceiling. Um,
Right.
what I want to do is spark your intellectual interest so that you're learning stuff for yourself. Because the moment you start learning stuff for yourself rather than because you're told to do it, I think it taps into a much deeper level of curiosity and interest and joy, right? So,
100%.
yeah.
I can say that in your class, I found myself like in the like behind Ada's Cafe. There's like the SLC, right? And man, I would just watch through your videos again and again, like dogging through them.
Appreciate it.
It was amazing, and like I felt like I was actually learning. And I don't know if you want to delve in it too deep, but like
Yeah.
all the books, like our own books, our own textbooks that you had us write
Yeah.
for ourselves, um, and like all these things were really like eye opening in my way for learning.
Yeah, and maybe what we could do is we could have you describe your experience. So we get in there in week one, you kind of remember how that worked, and
Yeah,
like
sure.
talk about what you did, what you produced, how you integrated the meta learning skills with mathematical skills, what it came to fruition in that class, how you built it in engineering. But let's start with 2B, for
Sure.
example.
I'm gonna have to throw my mind all the way back there. We'll see if we make it.
Yeah, I'll help. I
Um,
kind of remember.
but like in the start, it was all about like reading about meta learning and like deciding our goals for the class and a bunch of other stuff. And I can honestly say like the first week definitely did not vibe with it. I was doing the reading and writing the writing because it was required of me and not because I enjoyed it and I thought it was silly. And throughout the second week, I think I even like sent you an email where I might be considering dropping the class.
Do you remember what the response was on that?
I I I don't remember the words, but I remember after reading your email, I was like, this professor actually cares. Like it was like I would have sent that to any other professor and they're like, okay, great, drop the class. Goodbye. You don't want to be in my class? Don't stay with me. I can't remember what you told me, but I remember after reading the email, I was like, this seems like a professor I want to stick by. This is someone who will actually care. I didn't know anything about you
That
then,
human
but
connection,
yeah,
yeah, it's such a big deal.
you actually gave me a detailed response, and it was really eye opening.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I think that was I don't know if it was an email response or face to face. Normally, I like to do that face to face, but when I try to judge that
I
every
think it was
time.
over the weekend. Like I was about to drop. If you didn't email me,
Yeah,
I was out of
yeah.
there.
Yeah, okay. So at one point, like, and I remember, I call it the smell test. Like, I can within like 4 minutes of talking with a student, I can really see how serious the student was, and I could tell you were ready to party. And that's why when we were doing our groups, I was like, I want you in the group with Disha and Ron and our other sister. We'll get her name.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and so all of you chose the advanced path, and then can you talk a little bit about what the portfolio you decided to construct was to show your learning and how you did it?
sure.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah. So I created. I mean, just like iPad notes was the idea that we had, and I think we actually had a video from the previous quarter about one of your students where
Maria
she
Mejia,
yeah
she ended up getting a NSF REU, and she used that
wow
process for which we'll talk about your stuff too, right? But she used that
sure
process of creating full textbooks for all of her classes at Davis, and she would continue to like iterate her process, and she found that quite helpful. And I wanted you all to be able to hear that story because hopefully it would inspire you all to think differently, right?
Yeah. So the textbook helped me immensely.
Can you talk
And
about that? Like why?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
because no, very very students, they just see what's in the class when they take it. They don't get to see what happens once you get to a place like UCLA, how that resource actually engages with future generations of your life, right?
I'd love to go over it. So the textbook writing process was like every single unit that you gave us. Like I was really able, specifically with your style of learning, I had to adapt it to the styles at UCLA, which were very different. But you really helped us like define every single unit before we delve in and like write everything out, understand it deeply, and then afterwards I would go into these chapters and write them on my own. Really like distill down how I understand from them and go through everything. And right after a class, actually, I went back. I don't know if you remember this. I think I might have told you, but I went back and wrote a textbook for every single one of my math classes in the past. Because I realized like, wow, I'm A, not going to be able to remember it, and B, didn't really understand it fully because I just got through the class, saw the formulas, made my cheat sheet, passed the test. But if I really want to understand something fully, I have to be able to like explain it to myself as if I'm a 5-year-old.
Yep. Abuelita
And
language.
exactly.
Grandma language.
Exactly.
Yep.
And
So
yeah.
a really fun question that I would ask is, one, how did you adapt that practice once you got to UCLA, and
Sure.
why did you make the changes? Like, what at UCLA challenged you that you weren't expecting? I guess would be a really good.
All right. So the learning in a math class and in a physics class is very, very different than the learning in a computer science class. I got in to UCLA and suddenly had a quarter of 5 CS classes, first time ever.
Was that fall quarter?
Yeah, fall quarter.
You're a champion, man. You're a champion.
And all of a sudden you go in and realize like hey, we're not writing down formulas. It's not really a textbook that we're following. They're not like defining this is what you will be learning in this chapter and go on. It's kind of like the professor lecturing at you, going here, there, like messing everything up in your brain.
Yeah,
And
I call that 50 minutes of being vomited on.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Though I don't know, I also found some beauty in the vomit.
oh yeah, no doubt. No, I'm not
Yeah,
like I'm
yeah,
not.
no, no. But it's very, very different than having a structured
Yeah.
learning. And I realized I wasn't actually able to internalize it until I wrote in my notes and rewrote in my notes.
Yeah,
So for
beautiful.
instance, like if you go through my notes, not all of them, like some classes I just have to pass.
Yeah, that's called strict
But
strategy. There's not
yeah,
every class are you expecting to make money on,
exactly.
right?
But the classes that I actually cared about and that I realized will like serve me for my future, um, I would go back every single week and define like the objectives that I learned, what I actually got out of everything, and redefine in my own words. And specifically, one of the things that I love doing was before every single exam, I would like collect a group of friends from that class, and we would go over the essence of the entirety of what we learned. So not like the specifics and not here, but like what did they actually want to teach us through this class?
Yep.
And we would go through the essence and then build up on every single thing. So like we are expected to get this from this class. Here, somebody come up with a problem that how do we solve it? How do we use the things that we went through in this class? And I think that was one of the things that was the most beautiful to me, and like I took away as like one of the number one learning things for me.
Yeah, no, and of course it's always fun. I love to say that output goals are things that exist in other people's minds. So a grade is an output goal. It exists in the mind of the teacher. Scholarships exist in the mind of the committee who decides it. Jobs exist in the mind of the committee who does the job hiring, right? Money exists in the minds of people that give it, right? Input goals are stuff that we control. And one of my favorite quotes is, if we want to have massive changes in outputs, let's focus on making meaningful and significant changes in inputs, right? And what was really, but the problem is that it turns out that intention is not something that is easy to see. Moreover, there's only one person in the entire world that controls your intention.
Yeah.
Right? So the reason I'm highlighting this is that one of the things I really appreciated about you, Yam, one of the many things that I appreciated about you and Disha and Ron Painter and our other sister that was in that group, is that you were open to really critically reflecting on your intention and then dynamically updating that intention. And it turns out that in that model for learning, this is why Conquering College Lab 3, you were skeptical, but you were willing to try something new, right? And in Conquering College Lab 3, I have this model that I really ask for help from my students, which is, the lecture note model, which is what you're talking about. But there's something that pushes beyond the lecture note model. Oh, I guess it would be Lab 2, actually. I'm sorry. Which is the 5 stages of mastery, right? And what you were just saying right now is that, so you don't know, you don't know, you know you don't know, you know you know. So this is what I really look for in my students. And if you can do this while making really good notes, well, then if you actually need to remember it, remembering is just an exercise, right? It's not, because if you really understand it and you've made good notes, do you know what happens to commit those notes to memory? You just test yourself, no problem. Like, it's super easy. It's a low level task, right? It's the process of encoding your deep understanding in your own language and then capturing that takes the real intellectual work. So that's what I asked for in my class. And it turns out, what did you notice about the amount of work that it took to be ready to engage with your group mates during live in-class sessions? Like that discipline and the effort and all that went into that.
I mean, it was like, once you truly understood something, right? And were able to really understand the core essence of it, not just like the formulas or not just the remembrance, right? You were able to give so much more and understand so deeply. And also level 5 was the mastery of learning was teaching.
Yep.
Every single quarter, I was very lucky to have friends that were in the classes right behind me, like a quarter or 2 quarters behind me. And I got there was so much beauty in going over with my friends and teaching them the things. It's not really a teaching relationship. It's like remembering on your own and deepening your understanding as well, because you're able to go and explain to them and have them go through the same aha moments that you went through. And those were so beautiful as well.
And I want to highlight this because the reason I'm calling this out is that I saw you and Disha and Ron and our other sister, you all would come together in space and you'd really push each other. You had the discipline to do what I asked, which is the flipped learning. Flipped learning is much, much harder than lecture because lecture students can just show up. You don't have to do, but
you're passive. You're brain turned off almost.
You don't even have to do any prep. It's as if you're you just show up. The teacher does all the work for you. You go home. You might process it. You might not. But in flipped learning, there are students that tell me they'll do 20 hours of work outside of class for the 1 to 2 hour meeting that they have in class, right?
Yeah, that was crazy. And specifically with Disha, Ron, and
we'll get it.
I think it was with a J. I'm almost sure
Joyce.
It was with a J. Joyce.
Joyce.
Oh my
God.
Wow.
We got it. We missed you, Joyce.
We were really able to bring it back in the classroom, and we quizzed each other and went over okay, but why? There were so many but why questions. You go over it and why is it this way? Why are we understanding it this way? Why are we doing it this way? Why is Jeff teaching it this way?
Yep.
And when we really like tackle those questions and tried understanding them, and not just like, oh, this is how you do matrix multiplication, it's a row times a column. Like we understood so much better, and were able to teach each other and deepen understanding. And I don't think I said this yet, but afterwards at UCLA, I took linear algebra upper div class. And it was like for a different cryptography class that I wanted to take.
It turns out every freaking math field depends on linear algebra. It's
exactly.
Like, what?
Exactly. And I just remember like so many of the students, like there was like a specific problem they have to do, and like they would look up, okay, so like how do you do something specifically? And I would go to them and I would say, but what is the essence? What are we actually doing here? Like this is how matrices work. This is how our vector spaces work. Like this is the only way that it would work, because you actually understand
there's no
something.
other choice.
Because
if you understand what's happening, this has to be the answer.
And I found that in so many, like, you know, when professors ask you the trick questions to try and get your understanding, pretty much this is something that I found out about myself, like after doing this type of learning. I do so much better on those questions than the computation questions. Like you go in an exam, and really like I compare my exam answers to my friends. I think we have the exact opposite score. On the questions that they score low on, I score high on. And all the computation questions, like I score medium to low on, because I just don't care about those things. But all the
but if you cared about them, could you score really high on them?
Oh, 100%. I just don't write all the formulas down on my cheat sheet, and don't write like every single little thing about everything on them.
Because the reality is, if you ever need to do those calculations,
exactly, I can just look them up on Google
and code them up. Like you code them up and you calculate, right? Like they're low level tasks basically.
Exactly.
Right?
And such like the deep understanding questions, like those after like doing this type of learning, I seem to find that I can always ace or always like answer well.
Yeah, and you know, one thing I wanted to highlight real quick, because so what you're saying is that, so I would ask you, when you were in that upper division linear algebra class, how well did you feel your prerequisite content expertise served you?
Yeah, 100%. So
and be honest, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Be honest.
100%. There, I can't remember exactly, but there was like one thing I remember that like in the class she mentioned.
Or
no, we did least squares. At least I did least squares. I think that was like one of the extra things. But there was one thing she told me, you know, it doesn't even matter anymore because it was in the past, but I didn't know it. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't learn it. And my friends next to me were like, oh, but like we learned it in this class and whatever. But then I asked the professor, okay, can you explain it to me using linear algebra primitives? And she did. And because I understood them deeply, I was like, yeah, actually, I've already thought about this concept. Okay.
Oh, yeah. So you're saying that when the stuff that you didn't learn in our class, but that you needed, you picked up within a few minutes because you had the foundations that you needed to be able to piece it together.
Like, so it was like almost, it wasn't trivial, but it was like, okay, well, everything kind of builds on it. If I really understand the basics, which I did, I was really able to pick up on these stuff very quickly.
The rest of it was just details. Yeah. So
yeah, it was just details.
The thing that I say is that class is actually designed to launch graduate students. The way that and the reason that I say this, Yamm, is that I have this something that happens, which is that many of my young students don't know much about our system. So
I definitely didn't know much about our system at all.
Yeah, and they have this, so, you know, and I want to highlight something that you did and then talk about the converse. So, you know, there's this fantastic book that's called Talking About Leaving Revisited.
Okay.
And what this book shows is that we live in a college education system that weeds out 60% of STEM majors,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
And there's some amazing, like, meaning if we were in automotive industry, and these are from design decisions, not user error. So imagine an automotive industry that designs cars that kill 60% of
Yeah.
drivers, right? Based on design decisions, not driver error, right? So what happens when in that system, and you said it earlier, right? Like when before we met, you were used to writing formulas down, et cetera, and then we had this paradigm shift. You allowed me to coach you. Basically, you stayed open. We use this idea that we have a human connection. We really built that human connection, and then you allowed me to like kind of put ideas in your mind. And at that moment, you realize like, holy shit, my intention has not been to learn,
Yeah.
right?
That was a big moment for me.
And that, I mean, that's like life transformational, right? Like, because the moment you start to get that, what you can do is you can reclaim your identity in a system that's designed to kill it, in a system that's designed to weed you out, right? But it turns out that in that relationship, there's two pieces of it. I can only give you the water. You have to drink it. So one of the things that
Yeah.
I really appreciated, I always talk about the flow of information in my class. You could think about it like a river.
Mm.
And then in that river, there's these specks of gold, right? So there's water flowing and there's gold flowing. And if you wanted to maximize wealth, if you wanted to maximize your knowledge, so to speak, what strategy would you use? Would you just put a little like what do they call that, siphon filter?
Yeah.
If you put a little filter on the left corner of the river, so that it only filters out a small portion of the water, what's going to be true about the majority of that gold?
That gold's passing you by.
Okay, so what would be a much better strategy?
Yeah, I mean, try to take as much as you can accept. Like obviously, like downstream from the siphon, you have to be able to filter all that gold. You can't filter everything. If you take all the river at once, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna be drowning. But like slowly open that siphon more and more. Take more and more, and try to absorb as much of that gold. Like I've been like telling all my friends that go through your class, and also like friends that we talk after about this class. Actually, that's happened a lot.
Yeah.
About
It's amazing.
like how abundant you are in lessons, in life lessons, in learning lessons, and like really like we just have to be there and accept them, right? Like
It's hard.
It's a lot of work.
It's hard.
And not everybody has the time, right?
I know. That's why I don't. That's why I don't use punitive grading, because I don't think it's fair to punish somebody because they have to work 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
Like it's not a fair proposition, right? Like the fact that we are able to do the work is based on privilege, right? Like
I was extremely lucky to be able to like dedicate my entire time to school. Yeah.
yeah, and so I just
not my entire time. I
No,
still
yeah.
had a job, but still, yeah.
Yeah,
In
I mean,
comparison to others,
you didn't have kids.
like,
You're not
yeah.
having to pay mortgage for your family. Right?
100%.
Yeah, and the reason that I say this is that in terms of like helping students understand, one of the things that I really loved about, like I really respected and appreciated, is that you had the discipline and the openness and the determination where I think you watched every video, every minute
Yeah.
of every video in both of my classes.
Yeah.
You read all of the, not only you watch the videos, you had the notes open, then you would try the problems and you would do it as I intended it to be done, right? And what's interesting, the reason that that's interesting is many students refuse to engage in that, and then they don't see. I had a guy yesterday tell me he did what you did, and he's now top of his class at UCLA. He
Awesome.
he just made 15K in the last year. His group mates had the opposite attitude. They said, all this work is BS, I'm not going to do it. Well, he just saw one of his group mates, and guess what? The guy's about to fail out at UCLA. Because it turns
It's really
out,
sad.
yeah, it's really sad. And one of my students said, Jeff, do you enjoy saying I told you so? And then you know what my response back is that? Okay, imagine I'm guiding young people, and I have one young person, I say, hey, don't walk in front of that bus, it will kill you. And that person listens and takes the advice, and they go on to live a thriving life. And then I got another young person, I say, don't walk in front of that bus, it will kill you. And they go, fuck you, man, this is bullshit. I hate this work. And then they walk in front of the bus, and the bus runs them over, and they're bleeding and like on the ground writhing. You think I'm going to stand over them and be like, ha ha, told you so, right?
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah, like it gives me no pleasure. And the reason that I say this is, one thing that I would ask, I'm hoping that your voice and your story will inspire future generations of my students like you have inspired me, right? Um, you changed my life in my classes. You reminded me why I do this work, right? And I
That means
remember,
a lot.
uh,
Thank you.
I mean
And
it.
you've changed my life as well.
I will never forget that line ever. It makes me smile every time. The first 2 weeks I met you, I thought you were full of shit. And I love that line. I love it. It's a great line. It makes me smile. It was a gift that you gave it to me. I appreciate you for that. Um, but the reason that I think it's so powerful to capture a voice is that, you know what I say? It's called an earned opinion. So if let's say you go into a restaurant and the chef prepares a meal that costs something like 50 hours of prep work. And then you have one person that eats the whole thing, and you have another person that looks at it, smells it, throws it in the trash, and says, that was a shitty meal. All right. Which of those people deserve the ability to comment and critique on that meal?
Yeah, naturally, the person who ate it all.
Yeah, and so the reason that I say this is I can't control what my students will do, but my hope is that in capturing the voice of those that ate it all and the advice and the wisdom, my hope is to inspire deep thinking about in future generations of Foothill students about what they might do and how they might model themselves. So from that standpoint, I might ask, Yam, if you were to kind of think about that experience that you had and how you've brought it through and what advice you would give to future generations of community college students, like things that you felt were really, really powerful about your time at Foothill, that when you compare them to the UC stand out to you. What would you say?
I'd love to share.
Yeah.
Um, this is also like notes specifically to Foothill. I've had a lot of people in different community colleges with different experiences, but specifically at Foothill, I can say that I'd never gotten, like not before and not after, especially at UCLA, such attention and dedication from professors. Not only in your class, in many other classes
Sure,
as well,
for sure.
where you can see professors actually want to be there.
Love.
They are like actually passionate about their subjects. A lot of them are industry professionals that worked in this and realize that they want to give back to the community. And there's such power in having a professor that cares about you, cares about your learning, and if only you accept it and take in all that they have to give, you will have the best learning you will ever get. I personally think like Foothill was the place that really shaped my understanding, shaped my engineering thinking. The classes were basic because like they're part of your undergraduate degree and they're the lower div classes. So it wasn't the most content I ever got, but that's where I built my study habits, like what I think about school, how I learn, and like those are the things that actually stick with you. Because at the end of the day, right, like you're learning all these things, it's cool and all. Like, are you actually going to pursue a career in the degree that you did? Maybe yes, maybe no. But at the end of the day, it's like what you actually took out of it, like the learning that you have, your study skills, the hobbies that you started building throughout your time there. And I think like Foothill and Community College is like the perfect place to do that. So
Yeah.
I'm forever grateful for my community
Oh,
college
we
experience.
we're so you are our dream. Like this is one of the reasons I love working at this space. I don't want to work anywhere else. I work with colleagues who love their students and bring so much passion and respect and dedication to the job, and we're paid to do so. We don't have a
Yeah.
conflict of interest. We're not conflicted about spending less time with students in order to spend more
Yeah,
time
paid for research instead of paid for teaching.
which is
Yeah,
not what
that's a
they
huge
advertise on
one.
the side of the bus, right? On the side of the bus, they
No.
say, come here and you get the best education. But the reality is you get researchers who in their daylight hours do research and then they moonlight as teachers while actively minimizing the amount of time they spend on their students. Not on purpose, but because that's what the incentive system is structured to do.
Yeah, that said, and this is also where office hours comes in if you want to
Yeah.
like touch about that
Yeah, definitely.
slightly. But yeah, like these professors, don't really know how to teach. But they have such an insane wealth of
Yeah.
knowledge. Specifically, like, I don't know, my professors at UCLA
Yes.
published and like kind of spearheaded their fields, right? Their respective fields. And there is so much that I can learn from them. But they don't know how to give it in a class. They don't know how to teach it. And if I do, I always consider myself their most annoying student. In fact, one of one of my teachers that I love there and took many of his classes is Professor Paul Eggert. He worked like on the Unix system a bunch and did a bunch of open source. But regardless, he told me as we were talking that like the first quarter, I asked so many questions in his class, and he was like, I was so mad at you. I'm just trying to teach something in the class. I'm trying to get through my lecture, and you're over here asking me
Good.
questions.
Good.
And
You're making them earn their paycheck. Wow, how much is the tuition at UCLA per quarter?
It's a lot.
Yeah, you keep asking questions. And all my students, I want you to be, what did you call it? What was the phrase, the most annoying?
I was the most annoying student they ever had.
Yeah, I disagree with that contextualization because like really what you're doing is you're making them work. But like that's a prayer that I have for all my students. You make them work. You show up to office hours. Use your body and your mind to demand more value out of your education.
100%. So specifically that professor, after taking 3 classes with him, was like, but I mean, it was annoying, but like at the end, I realized like, wow, you're actually interested in this. You're actually trying to learn. And like after doing it a bunch, like there's mutual respect that grows between us. And
yeah, it sounds like he's never going to forget you either.
I hope so. Yeah. Yeah, there's like that was probably one of the classes that I learned the most in. Yep. And he was a professor where like I talked to a lot of my friends. He's one of those blabbers, like you were saying, like it's not 50 minutes, it's a 2-hour lecture. Yep. It's a 2-hour lecture where they go,
slides,
they throw you everything.
Yep.
And he specifically like knows so much because he's been in so many different things where he will go on tangents and start going deep into like all these million different things, and there are so many gold nuggets down the stream that he's chucking at you.
Too much.
But there's too much.
Yep.
And you really have to like slow them down, ask them questions, go to office hours, and really like deepen your knowledge afterwards to distill it down and get something that's useful for you as well.
Which is why that rewrite process is so powerful, because you can identify what, the way I would say this is that rewrite, you're actually partitioning the set of knowledge that they spit out in the stream. You're partitioning into stuff that you understand and have documented, and then a detailed list of really well thought out questions that you can drive deeper into that knowledge. And I would ask, when you did that, what did you notice about the level of depth and the level of expertise that you were able to get in that class by asking specific questions and really holding them accountable to help you get answers that you need?
Specifically, that class, it's called like 35L or whatever, is one of the classes where I feel like I probably like learned the most. I was able to like go deep into everything pretty much. Like I feel like I have such a deep understanding in the like exams, in the understanding, and also like I want to like give a quick shout out to this professor and his exams, because he has the weirdest exams probably in the entire school.
At least for you, at least from what you saw, right?
Yeah. He has like a bunch of written exams where it's kind of like, at least the way I see it, is the style of the questions is a manager is asking you about a topic and you have to go and explain it. And it's a bunch of stuff like he throws a bunch of questions out of left field where it's like, okay, I'm going to reinvent the internet in this new way. What are the pluses and minuses, it's like really, really questions which make you think deeply and require you to have a deep understanding and not just a surface level understanding. Oh, this is how you do this and this. Of course, he has some of those questions. Yeah. But I think it was like so beautiful to have this class where you need to understand deeply, think deeply, and be able to like make these critical questions and decisions. at the same time where I was asking myself these questions throughout the entire quarter.
Love it.
And yeah, that was one of the amazing things. Like I got through that class in fall quarter and I was like, wow, forget that I did well, didn't do well, grades, schmades, like I really understood that class. Like I went out of it and like I could tell anyone anything about that class. Ask me any question and I can go in depth. And like really the next quarter, like all my friends took that class after me because you actually weren't allowed to take that class in fall quarter regardless.
Yeah.
But I was able to like give so much because I had such a deep understanding in that class, and I thought it was so beautiful.
What I was hoping to do is just kind of show a little bit about this work that we do. And one of the things that I was really happy with for you is that, so Concrete College is this idea that you get really, really good at learning so that you're never under threat of grades.
Yeah.
Get paid to learn. So, and then once you do that, you get better results with less time.
Yeah, less time, less effort.
Right? And then
not less effort.
Yeah.
It's very, very specific, deep effort when you're doing it.
Strategic
but it is less time
effort,
overall.
right?
Yeah,
less
strategic
time.
effort.
So then you have time to do self-care, hopefully. And then also the idea is it turns out like the cost of college, no concern or major concern for you and your family.
Definitely a major concern. Actually, I took it upon myself to pay through college. And that's only possible because I can get paid to learn and the skills that I learned in your class.
That system, right? And then the really cool thing about that is it means that you've continued your work in scholarships and you've been able to find ways. Have you been able to avoid all debt?
No, I have some debt, but I'm really not worried.
It's not $40,000 of debt per year.
No. It's very, very small amounts of debt. And in fact, it's debt that I want to take on because I think I can leverage my debt to do better things and better use of my time.
And the point is you were able to continue your work in scholarships beyond Foothill College to be able to afford your own college, take that financial burden off of your parents. And because you were so good at this stuff, you had the time and bandwidth to be able to address this.
Yeah.
And then one of the really fun things about you is that I remember spending hours on the phone with you talking about that internship in Seattle and all the thinking. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you kind of leveraged to move beyond just regular scholarships into paid internship studies and what that meant and all that, just to kind of give students an idea of what is possible when they do really, really good work in these lower stages?
100%. I would like to highlight a couple of specific things. So one was, I'm not sure where it is right here because I'm sure your deep learning project changed a lot over the years.
Yeah, for sure.
But I remember deeply that you had a specific task that we had to do where we went out and found a resume of a professional in the field that we wanted to work in. And then we looked at their projects and the thing that they did. We copied them over to ours.
Yeah.
We labeled them red. And after we did those projects, we turned them green. And
green for
exactly. And I purposefully built my resume that way. I found people that I was interested in, and I'll go into that how I did that in a second. But once you find projects that you're interested in and people that you're interested in, it's interesting to do those projects. You're not just slogging through. And B, you're building something that's actually important and it's actually useful in industry, and they see it and see that you've done something that they would do because one of their peers did it.
Can I show something as you're talking right now? Because I was really...
Sure, yeah, please.
In Engineer 11, I was so appreciative that you let me coach you on the 3 resume trick style, because it actually takes a little bit more work. But I currently use you on my wall of fame. So, and I can't wait to post this on the wall of fame and continue to share your story. I use your work as an example. So right here, example 1, I don't think this is winter 2024. I think I mislabeled that.
23. The Eigenshoe project?
Yes.
That was awesome.
And one of the fun things is I think you had read the book Ultra Learning too, where we had...
I had.
Yeah, and so I bet that you have continued to do these types of projects that are resumeable, that you can put with evidence. I love that you provided evidence here, because then with a single URL, right, you put that on your LinkedIn, you drop that thing on your resume. And I remember really appreciating that you allowed me to coach you through that. That like it wasn't just that we were going to get you through the class and to build content expertise. It was that we were going to document that content expertise in a public space that would then turn something from red to green in your resume that you could then snowball into future opportunities so that you're actually reverse engineering the outcome that you want.
Exactly.
And then you filter every single class that you're taking with that skill, right?
And specifically for students, like having that thing like publicly that you can see is extremely important. I cannot tell you how many recruiters have told me like, oh, the fact that we can actually see your work is like so useful. And here I can share the project I did in Math 2B as well. This is one of the ones that I'm
I think
extremely
if you
happy
take the
about.
share, yeah, good.
Here, I think it's loading.
Oh my God.
Do you remember this one?
Yeah, can you send it to me again? Can you
Of course,
Can you like
yeah.
text that to me or
I'll
email
send it. I'll send it
Yeah,
after.
I
After
want
the
to put that
meeting.
online, man. I had forgotten.
Don't want to share our messages, you know.
Yeah.
But this was the project that we did in Math 2B class where we used basically I redefined the rotational matrices based on what we learned in the class. So what we learned in the class, took it, and it was actually kind of like the negative rotational matrices from what I found on Wikipedia, which is really funny. But this was the rotational matrix, and I like designed a bunch of points in 3D, rotated them, and projected them onto a plane using everything that we had learned in that class. And actually using a different project of mine, which was a rendering library.
Say it out. Do a little plug right now. Show Rubato. Show what to talk about it. Like I sell that project, right? You know that I like talk to my students about it and show them. Oh yeah, I'm still waiting for the. Yeah, I love that project, man. I think that was
one of my favorite projects as well. This was one of our rendering library projects. It's actually right on the front of the page. But it's a project that allows you to render whatever unimportant for the class. But I was able to take everything that I learned, put it together, and now a recruiter comes and can immediately see what I did. I have an installation guide. I can show them everything that I did. And like here, I have like a big demo, whatever, that shows like all kinds of different things that we made.
Sign me up for that donut right there, please.
Yeah, I love the donut. And then, yeah, basically like being able to show your work is so much more important than doing your work.
Yeah,
well, at least I found.
So from the standpoint of strategy, like
yeah,
the work itself, like
obviously being able to actually talk about your work and like sure everybody like every single recruiter can see this, but then when I go into the technical round they're like, okay, so what did you actually do? And if I'm not able to answer that, you're like, okay, he's full of shit.
If all you do is the work but you don't have a mechanism to show it, it means that you're making your future life really hard.
Yeah.
But if the funny thing is if you're already doing the work, how much harder it is to create a documentation that shows up on your resume where you show it, it's not that much harder. Right? Yep. You're already doing the freaking work. It's the same thing of capturing your lecture notes. If you're already doing the understanding, how much extra time does it take to document it, right?
100%. But now I can come back at any time, see my installation guide, see all the stuff, and immediately jump back into that project. The same I can do with all my textbooks.
Yeah, so I guess, I hope to have many more conversations in the future, not only on YouTube, but just to stay in contact. It's very fun. I make this joke, like I pour my heart and soul into my students and then they like just disappear. It's like, So it's very humanizing for me to be able to like recognize the power of the labor and what that meant. And it's a great gift, Yamm. I very much appreciate it. I would love to have you just share a few words of inspiration about, there is a statement out loud that says community college less than UC. And you're a living example that demolishes that narrative. In fact,
100%.
What have you noticed about your level of preparation versus native UC students?
Yeah, I think at least that the amount of preparation, deep understanding, and study habits that I got through community college was so much deeper, not than every single student at UCLA. There are some geniuses out there, right?
Yeah, we talk about, yeah.
But I think that the preparation that I got in community college was so much more important, so much deeper, and so much more thoughtful than the preparation you get in the first 2 years of a major at UCLA. I have a lot of freshman friends, a lot of sophomore friends, and specifically like in the intro classes like physics and math. I I'm talking to them and they're really not learning anything. They're slogging through the classes, and then when you ask them what they learned last quarter, they really can't tell you.
Yeah, and it's not their fault. Like, I'm not
It's
blaming
not their
UCLA
fault at
when you have a
all.
400-person class and that you're not incentivized to teach. But my point is, I want to do that counter narrative, right? And in particular, like, I don't know if you can share any encouragement, because it turns out this takes really hard work. And one thing that I love to do with my students is have them get ignited, right? Counter the narrative that this is useless, that you're not going to get much, and to really replace that with a narrative, the when you have a treasure in your hand, if you really, I think about it like you're planting a seed. A gardener that gives a lot of love to that seed, if it's a pure organic, goes back to 5000 BC, right? Really, really great, seed that is not Monsanto, not bullshit capitalism seed, right? But like really, really true stuff. What would you say about, what would you say to future students about the level of effort and how much that it can be worth if they take it seriously?
Is this like specifically through community college?
Yeah, my community
Yeah.
college, because they do this thing called internalized oppression. They'd say like, oh, nothing I do here matters. I have to wait till I get to the UC, and then they don't
Right.
work very hard, right?
Yeah, no. I've had friends go through community college exactly that mindset.
Yep.
Um, I I really personally think that community college is amazing. Not only not only if you like decided on a degree and want to go do it, also as an exploratory option. I had multiple friends who switched their major 3 times in community college, and guess what? I have similar friends that did that in university, and they're $50,000 more in debt than like my friends in community college. And I think it's such a beautiful time where you can explore really what you want to do. Have teachers that are actually passionate about your learning and will be able to teach you more than the professors at university. Like, really, we're learning very basic stuff in our lower div classes. It's not like you need someone who's done research in the field to explain to you how an array works, right? Having someone who has real industry experience, has taught this for many years, and actually cares about their student is way more important.
For a
Um,
way smaller price tag. Like, that's the
for
crazy thing. Like,
an insanely smaller
yeah,
price tag. In fact, it's even free for
free.
2 years. Um, and yeah, I really, anybody that I talk to, any high school student that I talk to, I tell them they should do community
Yeah, me too.
college.
My kids will be going to community college. I did 10 years in the
I
UC.
bet
My children will be going to community college. Yeah,
100%.
they will go to UC if and only if they want a PhD. like, yeah, cool. Well, Yam,
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. Thank you. I can't wait to hear more
thank
updates,
you.
and congratulations on all your success, brother. Keep going. All right, as we were about to sign off, Yam had one last thing he wanted to add that he thought would be really helpful. Take it, Yam. Take what was on
Yeah.
your mind.
One more thing that I thought was really important that I learned was specifically when looking for an internship and having an actual work experience, which I know a lot of us community college graduates specifically struggle with, because people look at our resume and are like, "What, community college? It's so silly." And it's still a stigma out there. But like one way that we can push forward and like put ourselves in a higher position is really reaching out to a lot of people. So I, in getting my first internship, talked to 38 different individuals, just sending them cold emails, and then I'll say how you do it afterwards. But the first set of people was a set of cold emails. Got a couple of people say back, yeah, I'd love to just give you an informational interview. I'll tell you a little bit about my space. You can learn about it. And then I would ask them to introduce me to some other person in a specific field that I was interested in. So like one week I was interested in A, next in B, I wanted to learn about C. And I'd ask them, do you have anybody doing that? and they would give me an introduction and I could talk to them. And actually, I didn't really think I wanted to do an internship. I wasn't sure. And through talking to people just randomly, one of them told me, "You're very interesting. Are you looking for an internship this
Yep.
summer?" And it wasn't one, it wasn't two, it was three people that asked me that just from talking to random people.
Yep.
And one of the jobs I was also very interested in, and it worked out perfectly, and we got an internship. So
And I
I
think it was
think
a
like
paid internship
a paid internship
with travel and housing.
with travel, housing, and a very competitive salary.
Yep.
So I think it's just very important for us to like use all the tools that we have and like actually talk to people and learn. Because if you're genuinely interested, people see that you're genuinely interested and will want you to work with them.
Curiosity goes a long way, and it's the
100%.
same. I call this high performers build coaching teams, and I call them informational interviews. We talked a lot about that,
Yeah.
specifically making the connection between what you were doing in office hours, transferring that over into the professional sphere. So I always like to say with my students, you're training yourself in office hours for conversations that are going to kick over. It's really exciting that you had that experience, because it turns out like, and you know, what happened at the end of that summer? What did they say?
I mean, they like gave a return offer, right?
Yep.
Like everybody was very, very enthused.
Yeah. So thank you for that, Jan. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.